Well, good afternoon and welcome to another presentation of the CBC Success Group Tips and Tactics. And today I got two great people on here, got two members of the CBC team, and we're going to be talking about processes to turn your new hires into top performers. And the two people with me are extremely skilled in this. Cheryl's on here from the aspect of being able to assess people's personalities, because that's one of the things that you're going to have to do to be successful is be able to assess what is their needs, what is their learning styles, those type of things. Brandy's on here from the aspect of I don't know anybody better for training office staff than Brandy. She's got the processes, the reviews, everything else that goes through. And we're going to talk about these processes today. Myself, I work with technicians, I work with managers, warehouse people, and there's processes there. So we hope this will be a valuable time for you today. Before we start, I'm going to give you a little story about processes. Brandy, are you a process person?
I love processes.
Love
The more detailed, the better.
That's it. Cheryl, are you a process person that think we got to work by the process?
Yes.
Good.
Definitely so.
Right. And I've even written a book about how to do SOPs and that kind of stuff. So I want to tell you a little story because this is what can happen. And this is a story about failures of systems. So Brandy, is Independence, Missouri, is that close to where you are?
It is. We service it. It's just about 20 minutes from us.
Good, because the story I'm going to tell you started out in Independence, Missouri in the year 1846, because the Kansas City area was the jumping off point for people to settle into the West and go to California. So in 1846, there was a group of people that decided they want to move to California. Now, in those days, there was a process to follow to get safely to California. First thing in the process was you had to leave on time. Okay. And that's a big failing of a lot of people. They can't get started on time. So the whole idea is you had to get started in early April to get over the Sierra Nevada mountains before the snows came in. But this group of people didn't follow the process, so they didn't leave Independence, Missouri until May the 12th of 1846. And what they did at that point was there was also a path to go to California. Now, what you had to do before you left, there were no convenience stores, no grocery stores on the route. So you had to load up your wagon with enough provisions to last you all the way to California. And so mistake number one, they didn't follow the process and they left late. Number two, they didn't pack enough provisions. In other words, they didn't have enough food to eat to last for this entire journey. So as they were going west, they found about someone telling them about a shortcut and where they got off the recognized path and how to be successfully arrive in California. And by getting off this path, instead of moving at the rate of about 15 miles a day, their progress was slowed to 1.5 miles a day. So what happened here was they arrived at the California border in the Sierra Nevada mountains in October of that year when the snow was coming in, and the snow stopped them, and the snow got over 20 feet deep, and they ran out of food. There was no food. There was no call Uber in those days. Bring me a pizza. None of that goes on. So these people were forced to eat the hide of animals to start with, which was what they had made the roofs out of. But even worse, this party was known as the Donner Party. In fact, if you go down between Reno around Lake Tahoe today, you will come to a monument to the Donner Party. 87 people left Independence, Missouri. Only 48 arrived in California. And many of those that did not arrive were victims of cannibalism. This is a true story but it illustrates the needs to follow systems to the utmost level. So, Brandy, I'm going to start out with you. We deal with companies that are trying to move to the next level, but often what we find out is they're not training their people in the right way. What's your thoughts on this, Brandy?
Yeah, I think what happens is I think we're busy. We've got 100 things going on. And so we think we can just wing it, or we think we can just throw somebody into the position and they're going to figure it out. But the truth is, they're not. They're not going to be successful if they do it that way. That's why we have to have the roadmap. I love that story you told, Jerry, because it just reminds me of a roadmap on how to get there. So we have to have the roadmap in order to make them successful, and the steps and the training in place. And I think just far too many people don't take the time to train because they don't realize how it's going to benefit them down the road.
What happens is that we forget there's a lot to know to be successful in the businesses we work with. And that goes for both the office, and it goes for the field staff, it goes for the warehouse staff, and it goes down to the management of the company. And that all these people have to be properly trained in what they're doing. So, Brandy, let me ask you a question. Can we dump it all into them at one time and expect them, hey, here's all this stack of books. You need to know all this. Does that work?
I mean, you could dump it all into them, but no, they're going to get so overwhelmed. They're probably going to quit or cry or lash out in some way. We have to feed it to them in incremental bites that they can digest.
Right. And we've got to set those bites up. You know, it's kind of like if you take a child to a buffet and you say, okay, just help yourself to dinner. That child's probably going to head for the desserts. They're not going to head for the salad bar. They're not going to eat like Haley would eat, your daughter. They're going to head for all the good stuff. Am I right? I mean, Cheryl and I have a granddaughter by the name of Lydia, and I can guarantee you Lydia's going for the sweets. So would that be true in your feeling?
Oh, for sure. And then they're going to overstep themselves and feel miserable and cry themselves to sleep.
Okay. So Cheryl, I want to go to you for a minute. Now, one of the things that you've been trained in is the assessment of behaviors and how to analyze the learning style of people. And Brandy's also expert in this, using color code, using DISC assessment, and other things. So how important is it for us to
Jerry, I can't hear you, so I don't know when you stop talking.
Okay, I stopped talking when I disappeared, so it's all you. What I was asking about, how important is it for them to know for the person to know their learning styles?
It's extremely important. Number one, it's important for you to know your own. It's also important for you to know your employees, because without it, we all learn different, either some by sight, some by feeling, some by pictures, voice. There's so many different ways. And if you don't know their learning style, everybody, what's the thing? Every squirrel will catch, a blind squirrel will catch a nut once in a while. But if you can put the glasses on that squirrel, they can see what they're looking for. Same way, if you teach in the way someone wants to learn, they grasp so much more.
What you're saying is you've got to understand the student. So, Brandy, would you agree with that? You've trained a lot of people in offices. How important is it for you to train someone to understand that person's individual learning styles?
Well, it's really the only way to be successful. Some people are just naturally, my son is one of them, that they can just naturally look at anything, memorize it, don't have to ever look at it again. I need somebody to go very slow with me. I need to do it hands-on. I can't just hear you. I can't just watch a video. I need to do all of those together. And so we have to understand how that unique individual is going to learn best and hit them from every aspect, through video, through verbal, through them reading.
Yeah. So how important is the vocabulary? You know, one of our key thoughts is, when you hire someone new, is we have a course called Chimneys 101. And the purpose of Chimneys 101 is for that new hire to understand the vocabulary. Because one of the things that I learned from you, Brandy, is you had a young lady that was remarkable and could learn exceptionally fast. But she shared some key thoughts with us that stayed with me today, which was she said, as a millennial, I am scared to hold up my hand and ask a question because it caused her anxiety. So, from what Olivia, that was her name, I believe, right? With what Olivia shared with us, I think we were able to move our training programs that we do online and in person to a higher level. So, do you agree that there's a definite need that they've got to learn the vocabulary that we speak?
Yeah, I think that's often the biggest hurdle. At least in my business, I hire a lot of young people. A lot of them are in their 20s. It's just naturally what apply at our company. And many of them have never owned a fireplace. And it was the same for me when I came in the industry. I didn't know what a chimney crown was, or a cricket, or a lentil. You might as well be speaking a foreign language to me. You might as well be speaking Spanish. And we can't educate our customers on this, know about this, until we've learned ourselves. So we have to break it down and figure out what are these components of a chimney. And that's what I love about Chimneys 101. That is just, in my opinion, the best program to start every new employee out on, no matter if they're in the office, technician, wherever.
Yeah, so Brandy, I'm going to take you back in history a little bit, and I hope this doesn't embarrass you. But I can remember a time that I came to Kansas City and I did certification training for your employees there at Flues Brothers. And you had just started working in the business coming out of the nursing industry. Do you remember the anxiety that you went through, even though you're with a college degree? You are a trainer. What did that anxiety feel like to you that day when you were going through that training?
Well, it made me cry. I broke down and cried on part of the test because I was just so overwhelmed with it. And I had studied and I had prepared, but it was just overwhelming. Again, it was like learning a second language. And remember that that's how our customers feel too.
Right. I often compare it, and that's what, if you're listening to this, I want you to think back a day. Think back to that first day that you went to either kindergarten or first grade. And all of a sudden, you had come out of a home, a mother that had possibly been with you every day, that stayed home with you. And all of a sudden, you are thrust into a completely new environment. Now, the advantage then was everybody else in that classroom was thrust in at the same time. But we have new people that are coming to work, and they're forming their entire behavior patterns are being formed by what they're going through. So, Brandy, one of the things that I learned from you that you use that we have put heavily into our training programs is onboarding. Could you tell everybody? Because this is actually, and I want you to listen real carefully, because Brandy invests a lot of time into the onboarding process. And in fact, every time there's a failure, she questions the onboarding process. So let's tell them a little bit about Brandy's onboarding process.
Well, onboarding is what you do from that first day when that employee walks in the door, from how you welcome them to how you introduce them to the team, to how you set up their training, to how you orientate them to your culture. So for me, on our first day, we're putting up signs welcoming them. We're going around in our team meeting and everybody's introducing themselves, saying how long they've been with the company. Sometimes we'll have them say, like what their favorite movie is, or just some sort of an icebreaker. And then we are sitting down and we are going through our employee manual. And a lot of companies, they'll give you the employee manual and they'll say, read this, sign the back, give it back to me when you're done. We actually go through it and read it line by line together. It takes me about 4 hours to get through it because I actually tell stories about each policy and how that policy came to be, or a real customer scenario, so that they really get engrossed into our culture and our expectations from day one. And then they watch that Chimneys 101 right from the start. So they're starting to hear those terms from day one. And then it just continues from there. They have a whole training program set up. When we're certifying them, they have a calendar that tells them what they're studying on what days, when they're going to take their test. So it's really just engrossing them in your company.
Gotcha. So Cheryl, tell me about, we have four distinct personality types that you analyze out to, called a D, a I, a S, and a C. Has this onboarding got to be tailored somewhat to that particular behavior style?
That's probably one of the most important things because they're so diversified. The one side leans to the fact of you can onboard me with a few words. I'm a bullet point person. Tell me what it's just boom, boom, boom. Tell me. Then you've got the other person that's on the other side of the spectrum that wants to hear every word, that needs to have it actually written out mentally and verbally for them because they don't absorb it very quickly. So if you take the high D and the high I and you sit there and go on and on and on, they're going to get bored and just lock you out. But on the other hand, the other side, if you don't tell them and you just kind of hop through it, they get bored and lock you out because they don't feel like you care enough to explain it to them.
So how important is it to see success in an employee to do a DISC assessment of that person as part of the interview process?
I would not bring an employee on without doing a DISC once they got in, because the thing about it is you need to know before they come through that door how you want to speak to them, how do you want to take them through the process. Just it's a hands-on thing that you can actually see how to work with this person, and it makes it so much easier. It's a time saver because you don't have to reach around and try to figure out, what do I say to this guy? How do I say it? Why is he looking at me like a bat? Because he's not understanding what I'm saying.
Okay. So to get this right, there's certain personalities that you give it to in a bullet point format, such as the three of us, we are all high D personalities. We want it bullet point, tell it to us straight, tell us, don't give us a lot of fluff with it, tell us straight. Would that be true?
That's the way I am. I don't like a long description. I can usually get it in the first couple words, and if I can't, I'm not going to listen to you. I wish I could, but I'm not. Brandy's laughing. She's the same way. She grasps fast, and the rest of it, you're just sitting there talking to the face.
Okay. So Brandy, let's talk. You talked a while ago about a calendar, and I'm going to call it a curriculum. So as they come in, this calendar of success, how many hours, days, weeks, months, or years does this calendar go over?
So going back to kind of what Cheryl said, it honestly depends upon the employee. It depends on what skill level they came to me with. I've only had a very few that came from another chimney company. The rest have come maybe straight out of high school, or perhaps I have one that like came from maintenance. So it's tailored specifically to them. And what we of course have one that's just standard, and then we tweak it from there based upon them and how fast they're progressing. So if we see that they're taking a quiz and they're doing really good on it, we're probably going to progress them a little bit farther. But if we see that they are not progressing very quickly, we're probably going to say, hey, let's take a step back, make sure that we're getting this information, make sure that this is the right position, make sure that you're going to be successful, because we spend so much money and time in hiring and onboarding. We want them to be successful at our companies.
Gotcha. Cheryl, Bart has put a question up there, and his question is, so are you saying that the DISC profile should be a part of your hiring decision? I'm going to let you answer that.
Bart, the way I would answer that is I don't think you have to do a DISC on a person like you've got 10 applications in and they're all kind of okay. I would meet face to face with them first. And then if they look like a potential candidate before I made my decision, yes, I would do a DISC at that point.
Okay. How important is this for in a management role? One of the things that we do is we hire general managers, and that's one of the services where, believe it or not, there may be 6 people involved in this interview. and you're looking at 3 of them, and you've got some pretty tough interviewers, especially that young lady sitting there in Kansas City right now, because she takes the lead on those. So how important is it if you're looking for a management level person, Cheryl?
It's even more important. There is an extra step that I can put in that will tag your managerial styles or your leadership styles or your CSR styles. And when I'm bringing a manager in, I want to know if he has the capabilities of withstanding what he's going to get when he gets there. Most managers falter because they get there and they don't have the backbone to hold up their position.
Right. And one of the things, and Brandy's husband, Jeremy, shared with me something some years ago, that one of the best trainers we had in this industry, he passed away some years ago. His name was Dave Pomeroy. And Dave Pomeroy trained a lot of people in this industry. So one of the things that Jeremy shared with me was Dave's curriculum put together in 30-day increments. You see, we service the chimney and the venting industry. And in the chimney and venting industry, there's a lot to learn. I mean, a lot to learn. When you look at it, I've got a really good friend by the name of Tommy Mello, and he's in the garage door business. And in fact, he's going to be on a group call with some of my clients on Tuesday night. And what Tommy's done, Tommy has devised a training system for how to work on garage doors, training center and everything. But this is what I learned from Dave, and I share this with a lot of clients today. What do you want your people to learn in 30-day increments? In other words, and you got to tailor this to your business. I mean, when we look at the chimney, the venting, the hearth industry, we're dealing with various types of fuels. It could be gas, it could be pellet, it could be wood, and it could be biofuel. And when I say biofuel, Brandy, I'm probably talking a foreign language to you right there when I say biofuel, right?
I've heard of it.
Okay, but the whole thing is, in Brandy's business, they necessarily don't need to train on what biofuel is. But if I were in a business that was serving a clientele that was buying biofuel, I've got to put that in there. When you look at a chimney technician, this person's got to be able to inspect. They got to be able to diagnose. They got to be able to analyze. They've got to have a scientific background. They got to understand freeze-thaw cycles, what causes masonry to deteriorate, what causes the factory built to deteriorate. Why do the gas units need service? All these things are going on. So one of the things that you need to do is this is what I'm suggesting to everybody, that you draw a picture on paper of what are the skills that I'm going to call him a master technician. Brandy, does that work for you? We got a master technician. This gentleman, this lady works in our business, and no matter what kind of call comes into Blues Brothers, you can send this guy to take care of it with competence, okay? Now, what is the skill levels that guy's got to have? He's going to have communication skills. He's going to need to know some of the things like Cheryl's talking about. Cheryl, is it important that they're able to analyze the DISC behavior of their customers in order to talk to them properly?
Yeah, that's what's so great about this. After you get involved in it a little bit, you can look at somebody in 2 or 3 minutes. You know where they fit on the spectrum. You know how to sell to them. You know how to explain what you've just done to their products with them, because again, they're the same way as when you talk to us. They either want the bullet points or they want the fluff.
That's it. And people can learn how to read disc. At this point, Cheryl, can you pretty well read a person's disc by having a conversation with them?
I can read them on the phone as a rule.
Okay.
But just after a short conversation, I can at least get really close. It's much easier to see actually their eyes, their body language, but you can still do it over the phone, or you can get close enough that you know which way to go.
Right. Brandy, you use a system, color code. Now, it's a little bit different than what Cheryl does in color coding, I believe. But how good are you at gauging the person's behavior and learning style in your interview process now?
It's same as Cheryl. When I'm using the color system, I can pretty much tell by the end of the interview what color they're going to come up. I will say on the disc, though, we use that as well. And I think it's extremely important. I never mind saying when I fail. I don't mind failing, actually. I love it because I learn from it and I get to improve. And I've actually had to sit with Cheryl. I've had an office manager failure that we've had to look at and say, okay, what was I doing in this disc? What did her disc show that I could have picked up on to not have had this failure? My current office manager, when she came to me a year ago and said, hey, I'd like to be considered for the position when it opens up, I gave her the disc, and Cheryl and I sat down and talked about it. Is she going to make a good office manager? What do I need to work with her on? What is she going to excel at? How do I need to speak to her? How do I need to coach her? How is she going to coach others? So it's like having an X-ray machine, I feel like, because you can just like look straight into the person and know their traits and their qualities.
Yeah. So I think one of the classic hiring mistakes that we make is we hire a new person and we bring them in that first morning. And I'm going to take the case of the technician. Okay, we want you to go out with Joe today. You help Joe today. Brandy, what kind of results are we going to get from just go help Joe today?
First of all, the poor technician is probably scared to death because they've never met Joe, and now you're sending him out on a truck with them. And is Joe a good trainer? I don't know. Is he going to actually train them, or is he just going to have them follow him along and he's going to do everything? In my company, we have actual preceptors. So we have technicians who are designated preceptors. They get paid an extra amount per hour while they're precepting. And the reason we pay them for that is because we want them actually teaching their new technician while they're out in the field. We want them actually showing them, having the technician do the things. And then we're assessing, what did you learn today from Joe? Joe, how did Tommy do today? Tell me what he excelled at, what he didn't excel at.
Okay, so good. So you're in agreement with me that that's not a real cool way to get great results. You're probably going to get crappy results. And see, that's what happens today. And I honestly, truly don't believe this. I keep hearing people say, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody, and I don't believe that. I believe today you've got to have something that fits that person's personality. And listen to what Brandy told you. It's kind of like a welcome to Flues Brothers on day one there. Would that be correct?
Absolutely.
Because I know what it's like to go to Flues Brothers and see pictures on everything else and all that. Because Jeremy is a bit of a jokester, and every time I do a class, I'm looking around. It's like he's doing but it's really nice because they're doing it to make me feel welcome in their home. Okay. Because truly that's what that's all about. And yeah, he gets a little bit out there sometimes with some of this stuff and some of the shirts he prints up and all that. So you just have to learn to take that. But that is Jeremy's behavior pattern. And I love him like a brother, like a son. But that's what we got to do. So that's what you guys are doing to make people feel comfortable, because if they're not comfortable, they can't learn. Let's go back to that kindergarten teacher. That kindergarten teacher has got to acclimate the child into a social world they have never been in before. Never been in. Agree?
Yeah. And I think, and they've got to teach them their ABCs and how to count to 100 and all these things that they've never learned.
Yeah. So here's our advice to you. Put together what you want to call it a curriculum, you want to call it a calendar, with your expectations broken down in small increments. That's number one. Number two, don't just throw them to the wolves when they come in. You got to put them into a training program, and you've got to guide this. We have an online program with over 760 courses on it. And I can only imagine what it's like when somebody says, well, there's the courses, go take them. Like, Lord of mercy, they don't know where to start. That's why we design our beginning curriculums up for both the technician and for the office worker. So there is a path for them to go through, learning the vocabulary, learning it, but you got to keep going to that higher level. And it takes more than simply getting certified. I want to lay that out there, guys and gals. Don't take that there's anything against that we're saying about not getting certified. But what we are saying is you got to strive to get to a higher level from the certification program. Certification, that is a minimum standard. That's what that is. So what you've got to do. So Brandy, let me ask you a question. You get people certified and you take them through pretty rapidly that we suggest to do. But then at that point, does anyone else, can they conceive the education program that Flues Brothers needs to be successful? Or is that something that you and Jeremy have to conceive?
So explain that a different way. So
does someone else design the curriculum for Flues Brothers?
No, we have to. Yeah, absolutely. We have to design it. And going back to what you said about the certification, it made me think, because I have a nursing degree. When I got out of nursing school, I had to take state boards. That's how I got my state license. That didn't mean that I should be taking care of a patient right away or starting their IV and giving them drip medications right away. That's something I had to learn still. So I like what you said about that just being the minimum standard. That just helps us get better at that knowledge, but it doesn't mean that we're ready to go on our own now and we don't need any further training.
Well, it was really interesting. I don't know if I shared this on the last time we had done one of these, but I recently had a conversation with my dentist, sitting in the chair with my mouth pried open and all that you do at the dentist office. But I asked him, okay, you have dental hygienists that go through school, and when they come to work here, they have been trained. How long does it take you from that point to turn that hygienist into a productive, profitable member of your company? And he said it could take 9 to 12 months. What about in the nursing industry?
Yeah,
Brandy?
it depends on the specialty you go into. So when I went into my first specialty, it was ICU step down telemetry. And so ours was 12 weeks. And then if you needed more, you could certainly have more. However, if you were going straight into an ICU or emergency room, operating room, for example, operating room was 6 months. So it depended on which specialty you were going into.
Okay, so Brandy, how do you build a culture to where your people want to get this type of knowledge, want to get this training, want to get to that next level? How do you build that in?
Well, I think you have to know your people. I think that the new people coming in, they're going to feed off the people that are already there. So it's important that the people already there are priding themselves in the education that they have. I think also it's something that you have to have them learning the things that they want to learn. And so this is something where I differ in a lot of companies, and I'm kind of a big stickler on is, one of the things I love about nursing is, in order to keep up my nursing license, I just have to have 32 continuing education hours every 2 years for the state of Kansas. But I can make those education hours in what I need to learn or what I want to learn, what I enjoy. And I love that, because then of course I want to do it, because I want to go to this class on the heart, or I want to go to this class on nutrition because I enjoy those things. And so if I have a technician who's wanting to learn gas, or if I have a technician who's wanting to learn masonry, it's about providing them those opportunities that they're interested in and the things that they want to do, versus you just have to take this class to get this requirement so you can have this certification.
Okay. So Cheryl, your mic's turned off. So there you go. So you're a person who owns a manufacturing facility. And a couple years ago, when I got into coaching, you saw areas that you were interested in coaching. And from that point, you moved through, you became a Ziegler trainer, you became a Ziegler coach. Then, as we talked about, there was a need for assessment. You decided to become a DISC assessor, and then you moved to the highest level of DISC assessment. What drove you to do this?
Well, people have always amazed me, number one, even as a small child. As you know, I'm a people watcher. But I knew there had to be something relative to people that made them certain ways. And when I started looking into the DISC, I realized they had a path where you could find these things. And so it's part of it's a natural need to want to learn was part of the part of it. But the other part was being able to help people, be able to help Brandy when she's got a problem with one of her employees, being able to help one of my coaching clients. It's just, it's an amazing thing to see somebody's life actually out in words.
Okay, so it's just amazing to you to do that. That's why you do it, right?
I love to do it. I think it's beneficial. I think everyone that, especially every spouse, I honestly think spouses should have it because it helps within the family. There's children, I think as they hit certain ages, it's a good thing for them. So you can lead them on into adulthood and then into the employment, and then the employee can take it from there.
Okay, so Brandy, same question. What is your drive? Because you, and your mic's off, so you know. What's your drive? You are always listening to people on podcasts. You are continuously reading articles. You're forwarding podcasts out to our clients and saying, "Hey, this is something you need to take a look at it." What drives Brandy? I mean, you got two kids that are teenagers. Your time is zapped. Okay, so what is Brandy's drive?
I love learning. I can say I'm a lifelong student. I think it's why I went through school for so long. I love to learn. I love to be able to help people with that knowledge that I gain. I think it's just something innate in me that I enjoy, and I enjoy reaping the benefits from what I learn.
That's it. So, folks, what you're listening to is why these two ladies are such an important part of my team at CBC Success Group. This is like my right and left arm you're looking at right now. In fact, Brandy had to recently take a leave of absence for a period of time, and it was like losing my right arm. It truly was. But here's what we're here for. We are CBC Success Group. I will be very honest with you. Nobody delivers more to clients than we do. If we can help you in your hiring, in your training, in your systems, in your interview processes, you see, you got these dreams. There's a certain place you want to take yourself to in life, and your business exists. Your business exists for one reason, and that is to take you and deliver to you the things that you're looking for in life. So I just want you to know what you're looking at is just part of our team here. We've got other people, but we feel like we bring you the number one resource that can help you move your business, not to where we want to take it, but where you want to take it. It's never about our thing. So, and I'd also like to tell you this. I recently published a book. It is called Step Up to Success, and it's how to grow a novice into a top performer. And the two ladies that are on this call were definitely part of my editing board, my sounding board as we went through there. You can get that book on Amazon. You need to order it. It's going to go over the processes that you're talking about. This book's been reviewed by a lot of people, and they think it's an excellent piece of work to help guide you through it. I was really honored because a very well-known speaker by the name of Scott McCain read the book, and he wrote the foreword to me for the book, and that was a very high honor. So get the book. If you ever see me anywhere, just say, hey, I'll be more than happy to give you a book. I'd love to autograph one for you. And so we'll let you know, we're pushing Brandy right now to get her first book published. But this young lady has so much value. And Cheryl's published, I believe, how many books now, Cheryl?
6 at this point.
6 at this time. I've done 7. So what this is all about information. I'm going to tell you, Cheryl and I don't get rich writing books. Believe me. In fact, I got my Amazon residual check yesterday. We ain't going to Caribbean on Amazon residuals. It's not going to happen, sweetie. I'm sorry. But that's not what it's all about. So I want to thank you for spending your time with us today. We've been on here, it looks like about 40 minutes. It's an honor, it's a privilege, and it's a pleasure. And I hope that you have gotten value out of this. If we can help you, you're seeing our email address scrolling across the bottom of the screen right now. You send to that email if you'd like to have a conversation with Brandy, with Cheryl, myself, Donovan, Bob Wise about your training, Bob Ferrari about ropes training, Aaron Marcus about how to talk to people, Tim Reed. All these are people that are part of our group of subject matter experts, and nobody brings a bigger team to the industry. So with that, we want to wish you a great weekend. And my name is Jerry Eisenhower. That lady in the center, what's your name again?
Cheryl.
And the other one over there?
Oh, Brandy Biswell.
Brandy Biswell. So we appreciate you joining us today. Reach out to us if we can help you turn your business dreams into your business realities. And with that, folks, we're out of here for another edition. Join us next time on another showing of the CBC Success Group Tips and Tactics.